Hi, everybody, and welcome to this weekend's edition of FootyNotes podcast. My name is Bonisile, and as always, I'll be talking a whole lot about Arsenal and everything that's happened this last week. Um, so, the thing I want to talk about this week, actually, I just had quite a rough week starting work again at my day job, and yeah, so it's been a bit of a week, but I'm excited to enjoy some football this weekend and do this because it's one of my releases and it's something that I enjoy quite a lot. So anyway, let's talk about Arsenal. So it was revealed. I think that's the first story I want to talk about was the revelations about LACA and AUBA's absence against Brentford. And yeah, as it turns out, yes, COVID, which like basically puts to bed, at least I hope, all the talk of like the rift and the infighting with Arteta, boys wanting to leave, and boys not being wanted to not being wanted by Arteta to be involved on such an important opening day of the season away to Brentford. So yeah. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about that because it's clearly, as far as I'm concerned, bullshit. And there seems to be, yeah, like quite a strong eagerness whenever something of this nature happens with Arsenal specifically. I remember last year when Aubameyang had malaria and people, wanted to know and all, Anyway, like you guys who follow Arsenal, you know what I'm talking about. Conspiracy theories came out of the woodworks and out of whatever rock they've been hiding under, and people started talking garbage. So similar things happened. I was obviously disappointed in the way Arsenal played in that game, but I never really took any interest in the garbage around. Why those guys were not there. I always believed they were unwell. As soon as I said they were unwell, and I know a lot of people have been asking, including in this guy Ian. I don't forget his last name, but this guy from Talksport asked Arteta, like, why didn't the club speak sooner about this and reveal it sooner? And I liked Arteta's response. I liked Arteta's response because he says to him, because you have to respect certain people's privacy and certain policies. Um, and it seems like here, those things intersected very strongly. The individual need for privacy and respecting it. And also, I think the Premier League would have liked to have not have this game become a COVID story. It's the first game, very, very first game of the season, and I think Arsenal here. I'm not trying to give them excuses, but I think they took one for the Premier League here and took one for the team in the way that they kept it hush hush. I think there was a little bit of gagging that happened there, whether it's from the Premier League or whomever broadcasting. I don't know who the interested parties. I don't think they did it in a malicious way, but I do think Arteta couldn't reveal what he knew at the time, like he said in his press conference. And the other thing that I think he said that was really, really important was that it's also important to not say something too quickly until you have all the information. In which case, he then also followed up by saying, it could have been COVID, it could have been something worse. At the time, not all the pieces of information were fully available as to like what else could have been the case. So like I think it was probably the right thing that they didn't reveal it. I know as fans, as stakeholders of varying degrees, we want to know everything as soon as possible, but that's not possible. I mean, people don't do that in their personal relationships. Like sometimes people take time to reveal things in the right manner. And yet we're expecting a football club that has so many variables and so many different people involved and so many like bylaws and things that they need to abide by to reveal information just like that. So anyway, I'm really, really not too interested in talking about the conspiracy theory, so I'm going to move away from that. But I did like the fact that they openly revealed it when they could, and Arteta addressed it at his press conference. But yeah, like the other thing connected to this COVID thing, now that we know about it, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I know it was a loss, okay? It's a numbers game, it's a results game. So I'm kind of curious to see. I wonder if fans are going to change their tact when it comes to their judgments of that game, considering that, um, you know, the players could not have been in the all of them anyway. Could not have had all the players in their right frame of mind if there was doubt whether the game should be played 48 hours leading up to the game or 24 hours even, right? And this is something that I think as a game and as a as a very male dominated game, and it bleeds out to other sports as well, but I'm talking football right now. I think we have a challenge here as football fans and as football people to really think about what we mean when we say mental wellness and mental health matters, because we on the one side of our mouth we say yes, it's a very it's an issue of paramount importance, but on the other side of our mouths, we want to look at games, cold-blooded in numbers, and disregard it when it suits us. Disregard that mental health influences athletes who are humans. I'm not going to go in on a psychology lesson or rant, but like I just wanted to say that, like that these things do need to be considered sometimes, especially when the information is revealed that maybe, yes, Arteta, needs to still prove a lot. I was upset about the game, but I do think after reading and seeing what I saw, I definitely softened my stance on some of the critiques that I had, because like I'm working as an educator, and when I hear about cases at my school, I know it affects me, it affects students, it affects people's ability to perform at their, at their best value, value. So footballers are people, and they're affected by people. If one of your teammates catches COVID, even if you test negative, it's something that will affect you because there's a brotherhood going on there. Those of you who've played sports, you'll know what I'm talking about. It sucks when your teammates catches an injury, not only because you're worried about winning. It's also sometimes, and a lot of the time, because there's a brotherhood there. You don't want to see your brother hurting, or that they can't do something they love and be with you and enjoy the journey and the ride of an entire season with you. So just wanted to say that because I really, really have been troubled by people's willingness to ignore this. So I just wanted to say a few words on that thing, and then on the more positive side, before we get to that, I think Arteta and the club handled this really well, and I hope that a lot of us will also start to just wise up a little bit when we hear things, and hopefully we are open minded enough that when new information is revealed, we can adjust our positions. There's nothing wrong with that. None of us are perfect. So anyway, I think I'm getting close to the line of getting a little preachy there, so I'm gonna stop there. But I know, and I know a lot of us fans, we want our sports separated. Like most American fans will say, I want politics separated from my sport. I think a lot of fans also just want to watch the game in its purest form and enjoy it that way, and be able to swear at people and be able to do all kinds of other things and talk and laugh. But sometimes, especially in the time where we live right now, it is important to remember that even though the expectations are what they are, once these boys and young men cross those white lines, they're still people who are living, amongst us. And even most of us are not operating at 100% right now. I'm going to stop there with regards to the COVID thing. And hopefully AUBA is fit enough. Yeah, like it seems like he was back, at least at the training ground, and should be ready to play against Chelsea, hopefully 45, 60 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't know how long he'd be able to play, but hopefully he's able to play. And moving on, let's talk a little bit about the new signings. So in the last week, Arsenal are closing in on Martin Odegaard and Aaron Ramsdale. And I'm going to talk about Aaron Ramsdale first, because similarly to things that have happened with other players in the past, I think football fans, we have a tendency to use data and statistics in ways that suits the narrative we want to tell, and people do it a lot. Wherever the data can say so many different things, but we choose to make it say the things we want it to say. I'm guilty of this at times as well, so I'm not gonna act as if I'm immune from this illness. But I just want to say a few things about this thing, right? Like the signing of Aaron Ramsdale, it divides opinion. Some people want to talk about the price, which is £24 million plus six if he becomes a regular. Yeah, you can debate price, value or whatever as much as you want, and everybody has a right to feel whatever they feel. Here's my opinion on it. Sheffield United paid just about 5 and a bit million more, less, sorry, and sold him and gained, 5 million or so if he doesn't become long-term number one at Arsenal. If he does, then they make a £12 million profit. It's a business. Football is a business. Arsenal are looking to go young, and they and other people in England, actually, in the England setup. And this guy has played right through the youth system in England. And so he's not an unknown quantity. He's somebody people within the football circles know about. And a lot of people who are within the football circle rate this kid highly. Now, there are other people who have been very noisy about, including people like Andy Gray, who works at beIN Sports, who I think should know better. But a lot of pundits are talking a lot of shit too about this. And my feeling about it is like, look, the kid's been relegated twice, yes, but both teams were shit. You put any goalkeeper against like a very generous defense, they're going to look average and they're going to be busy and making a lot of saves. My one thing, like, this is a goalkeeper that I like, by the way, former Arsenal youngster, right? And he's now a grown-ass man, Szczesny. Wojciech Szczesny was a decent goalkeeper. And he went to Roma, was playing ahead of Alisson. He goes to Juve, and he wins more than Alisson in Italy because he's playing for Juve. If you ask me today, or even like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, who's the better goalkeeper once they both started playing? Alisson was clearly the better goalkeeper, but Szczesny was playing for a better team, therefore conceding less and winning more, right? And it's the same thing when you take, I'm trying to think of like a situation where, Emi Martinez. This is the other example that I want to make. I'm talking about Arsenal goalkeepers here for sure, for a reason. Emi Martinez, at age 23, was not the goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale is at age 23. And a lot of people are crying about Emi Martinez being sold last summer. I didn't want Emi to be sold. Let me just get it right now. But I think Emi is a casualty of, Arsenal's recruitment and the timing of him being there at the same time as Leno, right? The opportunity for Emi was probably when Ospina and them were there, and Emi could have earned the trust of whomever was in charge. And that was the window. Then that would have stopped the purchase of Leno. So timing is also very important here. And if you look at the timing of this thing with Ramsdale, there's still Leno there. He's good enough to compete with Leno, but I don't think he's quite, if they both have their best game, I'm not sure yet, right? If Ramsdale is Leno level, if Leno plays his best game and Ramsdale plays his best game. However, I think he's a capable enough keeper to push him based on what I'm hearing and reading from people who know more about this kid and who know more about goalkeeping than I do. So going back to the Emmy thing, right? Like, yeah, you sold Emmy last year for 20 million quid, and then you're buying Ramsdale for 4 million more, possibly 10 if he becomes the number one. The thing is with Emmy, Arsenal did not want to sell him. He wanted a guaranteed spot as the number one, even though he had been the reserve or kind of like the challenger to Leno's spot. Now we can have a conversation, about whether he's better than Leno or not, and some may feel rightfully that he is, and some may feel like, no, bullshit. I don't know. I think they probably on an equal footing, but Arsenal had committed to Leno. And if you become a club who buys people for being your number one, and then you kind of like do certain things that are shady, I think Leno was, by the sounds of what Arteta was saying anyway, Leno was open. Leno says he was always going to be number one. Maybe that's him backing himself. But Arteta said no, he wanted to have an open competition, because I've heard Arteta say this, that goalkeeper should not be treated differently to other positions where players don't have competition, right? Like, there needs to be competition all the way throughout the squad for positions. And so the goalkeeping thing, I think Arteta was trying to, maybe too soon, and maybe Emi was like, no, this is not worth my time. I don't want to be competing with Leno for a number one jersey. I want to be number one. And so he made a decision and he left. And Arsenal, in a very difficult season for selling, off season for selling, they got valuable money for him. So I'm not, crying over that deal. I think Arsenal was benefited from it, from a guy they got for almost nothing. And Emi has now built his career and has established himself as one of the best goalkeepers in England. I think that's a good example of a win-win. But because we've been so scarred and so hurt and disappointed by the club, I feel sometimes as a fan base, we just like to linger on things from way back when. I think this deal, let's give it time and let's have a growth mindset for this kid. And let's judge him on what he does for Arsenal, because I tell you, that Sheffield United team last year was shit. That team was really, really shit. And Ramsdale was unfortunate, like timing wise, but even they invested heavily for him because they knew that he was probably close to a sure thing to be worth, more or the same in a resale. So, and they've gotten themselves a deal. Good for them. And I do hope that this works out for the kid and for Arsenal, because I want Arsenal to succeed. But yeah, so like these things are going to happen. People who don't deserve to be sold will be sold, because we have a lot of duds in the squad. And Joe Willock is another example of this. I'm not going to talk too much about Joe because I've written about him and spoken about him quite a few times in the last month or so. But it's another example of this, of like, having many players that you need to move out, but you're having a hard time because there's no interest in these players. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the second half of this episode when it comes to like, what remains on the to-do list. I'm going to just take a quick break for a short commercial, and then I'm going to move on to Martin Odegaard. All right, folks, welcome back. Let's talk about Martin Odegaard. This is another one where fans, some fans anyway, I think there's enough of a happy fan number about this one. However, there's still some voices, because you can never, I guess, keep everyone happy with any one move when your club is big as Arsenal. But for a club of any size, you will struggle to have all your fans agree on any singular move. My thing about this Odegaard move, really, it's a signing that makes sense, man. Not many times you get a loan that goes well. And most of the time when a loan goes well, the price for that player, especially because, the owning club gets to see him in your colors and they see what he's worth to your team, the chances are the price of that player is too much. And when I look at the numbers that are being reported for this deal, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. Because from what is reported for what the other alternative that some Arsenal fans would have preferred, which is James Maddison, player that I like James Maddison, but if £70 million is what Leicester were looking for James Maddison, and you can get Odegaard for less than half that at £30 million, which could rise to £34 million if certain things are achieved by the player while at the club. And it sounds like Arsenal have signed him onto a contract of 5 years with an option for a 6th year. I don't know why any fan, if they had two eyes watching last season, they would complain for a deal in this market. I mean, Emi Buendia went for more than that, and he was playing in the Championship. We're buying the player from Real Madrid who has played in the Premier League, and we've seen him play and made Arsenal in the time that he was playing in very, very functional. He had some of the best stats, individual stats within the team while he was playing for Arsenal last year. And one of my favorite stats, which is something that I think Arsenal still needs to improve on, was that he was one of the top two, I think, winners of the ball in the opposition. If not number one, I think it was number two, winners of the ball in the opposition's defensive third. So in Arsenal's final third, Martin Odegaard was winning the ball like crazy good. He was also, I saw some videos that were released on Arsenal.com. Let me actually be sure what I'm saying here. Yep, he was the second most successful defender in the final third. So I was right. I said one or two. So he was the second most successful winner of the ball in the final third. And so yeah, he gained possession 0.73 times every 90 minutes in that area. But he was also quite the vocal leader of Arsenal's press, and he was the conductor telling people where to go. And he was also kind of like the trigger player, like he was the guy who would start by moving from his behind the striker role to press forward to almost be level and sometimes in front of the striker, making us look like a 4-4-2 shape in the press. So this guy, for what he is prepared to do and the upside that's there and what he's already shown us that he can do right now, I think even though I'm very high on Ben White, he at least has already shown that he immediately improves the team when in there. So I think if you're talking value for money, he's as good value for money as you will find out there in the market. Especially when you consider, I'm not going to complain if Arsenal go now and buy somebody else, like another creative type, like Houssem Aouar. And I know that Aouar, some people may argue that he's cheaper, but that Aouar's guy, though, he's not to be trusted. I'll believe it when I see it if Aouar is going to be actually cheaper than Odegaard. But one thing I'll tell you is that Odegaard is hungry. And it seems to be generally agreed upon that he's a very good professional. You don't hear reports about him not taking himself seriously, nor taking his career seriously. He seems to be a guy that people can depend on to lead. And he's already, I know Norway is not France. Houssem Aouar plays in France and is a French international. But the fact that this kid is being trusted with leadership responsibilities, that speaks volumes. That speaks majorly in terms of like a tick on his side. So I think Arsenal, this one for me is a no-brainer. I don't even want to talk too much about it. I think he gives us too many different things. He allows Smith Rowe a lot more opportunity. I think with Odegaard in the team, you can, at times when you're going to have the ball a lot, or if you're chasing a game, playing at home, you can play in a 4-3-3. I know that's not the best one to use him in, but you can use him in a 4-1-4-1 or 4-3-3 kind of shape with him and Smith Rowe on either side of his sitting number 6, and then you can have Pepe on the right, Saka on the left, or doesn't matter, like one of either. Or you can have him obviously in the quintessential 4-2-3-1 style number 10. I think you can do so many things with this player, and he's definitely not going to impede or step on Smith Rowe's toes. He's not going to impede Smith Rowe's progress as a player. In fact, I think clever players love playing with other clever players. And these two youngsters, they're clever as hell. So I think they're just going to have fun with it and let us fans bitch about who's stopping who from doing what. But to me, I think this is a really, really good buy for Arsenal. It needs no discussion, to be honest. Let's just enjoy it. Enjoy the show. We have this kid locked in till 2026 with an opportunity to take a further year if we still like him. He's probably going to be cheap because, Real Madrid pays shit for people who aren't stars. So he's probably not going to earn more than the Bayerns and the Kolasinacs and those kinds of player. I think he'll earn maybe just the same or just below. And then you're going to have Lokonga, long-term, cheap. Smith Rowe, long-term, I would say cheap as well. Saka, long-term, cheap. Balogun, long-term, cheap. The expensive contracts are, I'll be talking a little bit about some of the other guys that need to be moved in the next little bit. But yeah, I think this deal just makes too much sense to not have done it. And I know that there's a lot of talk about Edo's barbecuing and all these different things, as if people can't have lives. The one thing I'll say about that one is I think let's have a little bit of like, I know optics matter because I'm a South African man living in the US, but I also know that coming from another country, living here, there are times where you just want to enjoy people, enjoy family, enjoy friends. And I know people are going to be like, yeah, but he knows better, or he should know better because he's working in a public facing role. But like those of you who are expats might hopefully understand this. But also those of you who are not English mother tongue, kind of like, if you are not American and you are not kind of like European, you may understand where I'm coming from with this. I think sometimes this is a very Western idea. And I think sometimes, when we talk about these things, we need to be really careful. Saying, yeah, he's tone deaf, he's not reading the room. Arsenal fans are not all American. They don't care. Not Arsenal fans are English. And as a Brazilian person living, in another country, it doesn't mean that he's not working when you see his wife post on Instagram. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying people shouldn't have their opinions, have your opinions. But I do think there's another side to this conversation that's very silent, because a lot of us who are able to podcast, first of all, we have resources that people don't have. And those of us who are able to be online, we have resources that other people don't have. And so I think sometimes we need to be watchful in how we use our platforms to make things that could be culturally nuanced and make them into big statements about like as if there's only one way to look at things. So yeah, I don't care. He can fucking barbecue all he wants with his family, go see his friends for their 50th birthday. People do these things. It doesn't mean he doesn't care about his job. He doesn't have to care about his job the same way I care about mine. That's all I want to say on that one. I don't want to like start a riffraff or start battles with people, but I just think sometimes we go a little too far with our critiques and what Arsenal is doing. And I would encourage those of us who go that deep into it, try to get a bit of a life, man. Try to just take a distance. What I'm doing right now, to be honest, I'm watching other teams as well as Arsenal, because I get to enjoy football and remember that I actually like the game and not get too much in the politicking. That's helping me figure out what works for you, and just, don't get too far away and get personal with these people, man. They're just people working. He doesn't need to be denying himself time on a yacht with his family or whatever the fuck he can afford to do for a holiday. That's his life. Working at Arsenal is part of what he does. It's not all of who he is. And fuck, I don't want a sport director who only does Arsenal anyway. I want him to have a life because he works with people. This industry is filled with people. Um, you know, as long as he knows how to be professional and continue to work his ass off too, good luck to him. I hope he continues to do well. Good kudos for securing this Odegaard thing, because I know a lot of people were, calling him naive and calling him a novice, and I might have done so myself in the past, but I really, really am starting to kind of like remove myself from that kind of talk and just like try to understand what these professional people are trying to do at the club, and try to learn and see how they're running it, because Arsenal for a long time hasn't had to do a rebuild. Most Arsenal fans haven't seen a rebuild. We've been spoiled in watching Arsenal play carpet football and be beautiful and do amazing things. And so we've been fucking spoiled, and we behaving like brats, most of us. I'm talking about myself too. But I've had to find ways to just like slowly release, just press slow release. Stay engaged, still passionate. I still swear at the TV, but I try to be restrained when I talk online and when I'm talking like broad picture about everything involving Arsenal or other people in the community of football, because we're still dealing with people and we all multicultural, and there's a lot of different things that sometimes, you know, from your perspective may make no sense, but from someone else's perspective, they make sense. Hence the Instagrams. Maybe Edu is not in the business of telling his wife what to post and not to post on Instagram. I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that for any longer. I just wanted to just plug in on that and just say, those of us who are privileged enough to be able to talk, to have pods, to have internet and tweet all the time, and have, like there's a whole other group of people out there who may actually be okay with Edu doing what he does, and they may not be like maybe talking or saying things, and maybe it's okay for him to do it too, like without having to politicize it or think about optics and blah blah blah. Like, anyway, make of what I'm saying what you will. I'm just raising a wonder there and saying, I wonder if you've thought about it. Those of you who go too in or too hard in on him, like if you've thought about it from a different side. It would be stupid of me to keep going on about this one, so I'm going to just stop there. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about, Arsenal's Chelsea game tomorrow, which is basically like a scary one for me, considering like what we're working with after watching that Brentford game, and also watching all of our preseason. I think the performance will be better than Brentford, but I'm doubtful that it will be enough to get points. I think the performance will be better. In fact, I suspect that Arteta might try to match Chelsea up and go 3-4-3. I think his lineup might be similar to what he did, against Chelsea, when he just went with Odegaard and Smith Rowe behind AUBA. And Saka was playing at right wing back on the day. But maybe today, not today, like on the day of the game, he might go with Saka and Smith Rowe behind AUBA, or Saka and Smith Rowe behind Pepe, and then go 7 players behind them, or Saka and Smith Rowe behind Martinelli, which I don't know. But I think he should definitely look to go for pace and look to, even though they're playing home, look to get to hit Chelsea on the break, because you give Lukaku, Werner, Havertz a lot of real estate to run in behind by playing a high line. They're going to hurt you. They're going to punish you. So it might be a game where Arsenal, maybe, if I'm Arteta, I'm talking to Steve Bruce and I'm talking to Antonio Conte. I'm talking to every good counter-attacking coach, maybe even Nuno Espirito Santo, on how to set up a counter-attacking approach and just flipping look to upset. I mean, it looked very, very painful watching that 1-0 win against Chelsea in the second round last season, but it worked. We're compact, shaped up in a 3-4-2-1, and we did the business. We got really, really lucky though, really lucky. So I think the game tomorrow is going to be, it's going to be a painful one, but I'll watch. Like I watch all the games, every minute of every game. Sometimes I rewatch it, and I feel better when I do that because when I'm watching it live, you get too emotionally involved in it. But I think the season, as I'm thinking of it right now, I think our season starts at the end of the transfer window. I think Arsenal will be pointless, or maybe have a point. I think tomorrow is our last chance to win points before the international break, because every time Arsenal, before Arteta and after Arteta got there, play City, it's almost like we're going in there saying, please don't hurt us, please don't hurt us, we'll give you the one goal, but don't score another one. It's a very apologetic, maybe even borderline pathetic approach to the games that when I've seen us play against City. It's almost like we're trying to mirror image what they do, and we never really do anything. It's like, let's slow the game down so that there's fewer possessions for them to try and hurt us. So I'm not hopeful if Arsenal don't get any points against Chelsea, and I suspect that will be the case. I'm hoping I'm wrong, obviously, because I never want Arsenal to lose. But my resignation is that we'll go into the international break with no points, and then our season will start then. We'll have our squad, we'll have a run of very friendly fixtures, like about 5 of them. Hopefully, we will then get a run there where we can win, 3 or 4, lose 1 or draw 1. Then that'll be the start of the season for us. Okay. So I don't know, man. I don't know what you guys think, but like I'm not too optimistic about tomorrow's game as well as the City game. Speaking of the rest of the transfer window, there's still quite a bit to be done. Torreira is back in London, but it looks like he's going to end up in Italy. There's apparently interest in him from Frankfurt. I think Eintracht Frankfurt was reported to be interested in him, but he wants to go back to Italy. And it sounds like Maurizio Sarri wants him, and Fiorentina wants him. So Lazio and Fiorentina wants him. But it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. And then Kolasinac is another one who clearly not in the plans for Arteta this season. It was told last January already, but Schalke couldn't stay up, so both he and Mustafi couldn't be kept in the books. But Mustafi's contract was over, so couldn't come back to Arsenal. Kolasinac still has some remaining time on his Arsenal contract, and by the looks of things, he is trying to get the same deal that his friends Mesut Ozil, Mustafi, Socrates, them lot. They got a payout, and it seems like he's trying to get a payout. You know what? I wouldn't blame him for trying. But the Arsenal, on the other hand, are trying to get money for him. There's been reports saying Arsenal are trying to get like 4 million euros for him from Fenerbahce. But let's see how that one plays out. I think Kolasinac might end up winning this round because he's got the best agent, who is Mesut Ozil, plus Mesut Ozil's agent, as to how to screw Arsenal out of some more money while doing nothing for them. So I think Kolasinac will be fine, but I do hope that he gets to go within the next 10 days, because time is gone. Hector Bellerin is another one who this situation is becoming more and more annoying for most of us Arsenal fans. I don't know what's going to happen with that one. Ainsley, I like the kid, but I think he and his advisors have definitely not managed the situation very well with Arsenal, because if he was in his right mind and was okay playing in any position the team needs him, I think he is Arsenal's best right back. No question. Including Hector, including Cedric, including other people, especially the way Arteta likes to have Tierney play in high territory, almost as a left winger. He likes his right back to be able to cover a lot of ground, to make crosses, but at the same time, his right back seem to be entrusted with more in midfield kind of responsibilities. So Ainsley wants to play in midfield. The Arteta system kind of would allow him to do that, just like when he was playing on the left, on the 3-4-3 as a left wing back. He kind of came inside, and we went to a back four in a way, because Tierney would push out to be a left back, and Ainsley would make runs inside, working with AUBA up on the left in that 3-4-3, because he would become sort of like the left-sided central midfielder in that system. So I don't know what happened there. Ainsley, I don't know. Sometimes these things don't work out due to relationships, but he's got the natural gifts to make it work at Arsenal. But it's up to him and his management to decide what he wants to do. But I think right back for me is the one position that Arsenal are going to have a hard time. There's too much to do. They have 4 players in that position, 10 days to go, and no movement. So they may have to go in with these guys as right backs, in which case I'm inclined to believe that Arsenal this coming season will be playing 3-4-3 or some form of a back three system for periods of the season, because the center backs we have, there's only one pairing that I think would be okay, or maybe 2 pairings that I think would be okay in a 4. I think if you paired White and Gabriel, or White and Holding, or Holding and Gabriel, maybe you could get away with playing a 2 in some games. But in some of the tougher games, I think most of our center back pairings, including a right back side, not good enough to play with the best of them, and play with 2 at the back as well as a right back that's subpar. So maybe with the 3 at the back, you can be able to improvise and maybe get away with squeezing in a winger or an attacking midfielder, like playing, like Tuchel did things with Pulisic sometimes as a right wing back, or Callum Hudson-Odoi as a right wing back. I think a back 3, would allow Arteta to do things like that. And I think White performs better in a 3 historically. I'm not saying none of these players would be good in a 4 ever, but I'm saying in their development and what they've shown us so far, they seem to be better suited to a 3. So I do believe that with the right back situation as it is, and the lack of competent center backs who could play well against the better teams in a 2, I think we might be seeing the return of the back 3. So sorry to those of you guys who don't like the back 3, but I think there's a very, very strong chance it's coming back. All right. I'm going to stop there for this one. I will be doing another podcast by Monday latest, reviewing what happened in the Chelsea game and talking a little bit about West Brom and any other developments that have happened. As always, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're enjoying the content, please give us a rating on iTunes, on Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast, or wherever you find your podcast. Appreciate the support. Cheers.